Okay, tomorrow you've got a quiz on chapters 1 through 6. Y'all are going to do it in Google quizzes, forms, whatever, because it's just easier for me to grade that way. So make sure that you've got your laptops and all that good stuff. I know you're used to carrying them back and forth now. But I am, of course, hitting some of the highlights, but I cannot read and explain everything. So you got to do the legwork on your own. Be sure that you're doing that. But I can't tell you a page because my book is different than everybody else's. But I can tell you that it is probably the last page. Well, it's got to be the last page of chapter 4. Okay? And before I talk about the last couple of paragraphs, let me just talk a little bit about 4 itself, okay? So we know that Hester Prynne was on that scaffold how many hours? She was on there 3 hours holding her child, okay? We also know that her first impulse was to take the baby and use it to cover the letter A, but what does she realize? Baby's a symbol of shame too. Like, why are you going to take one symbol of your shame and try to cover the other? Doesn't work that way, all right? And, of course, we get her husband who shows up out of nowhere, right? And she recognizes him, and he recognizes her. And at the end of that chapter, she's pretty scared about coming in, contact with him face to face. Well, chapter 4... not gonna lie, it's not my favorite chapter, but he's able to finagle his way into the prison, okay, to see the prisoner. And I have to say that he's not like as severe with her as he probably could be. He says things like, when I married you, I knew that you didn't love me. I shouldn't have married you. He's much older than she is, by the way. He said, but I loved you so much that I thought that my love might end up being enough. And he says, I should have known better, right? And she, of course, says, I've wronged you and all that kind of stuff. He gives the baby medicine to calm the baby down, and they, of course, talk. And at the very end of the chapter, it's maybe the last 3 paragraphs, okay? He says, and now Mistress Prynne... do y'all see that? Okay. He says, and now Mistress Prynne, said old Roger Chillingworth, as he was hereafter to be named, I leave thee alone with thy infant and the Scarlet Letter. Might want to highlight this. How is it, Hester? Doth thy sentence bind thee to wear thy token in thy sleep? Art thou not afraid of nightmares and hideous dreams? So he has basically said, I'm going to let the letter punish you. Okay? Because he has made her promise something. Like everybody else, but he's, of course, got a personal stake. What does he want to know? Yeah, who's your lover? Who is the father of this child? And she, of course, refuses. She will not say anything. Well, he says, essentially, if you're going to keep his secret, you got to keep mine too. Okay? So he makes her promise that she will not give his identity away. Why not? It's not just because he's ashamed that his wife strayed, right? I mean, he's been gone.
It's like personal reasons.
What are his personal reasons? He wants to find out who it is. And no one would be free to talk around him if they knew that he was her husband. So he's going to take on the identity Roger Chillingworth. And he says in the next paragraph, she says first, why dost thou smile so at me? Inquired Hester, troubled at the expression of his eyes. Art thou like the black man that haunts the forest round about us? That means the devil, okay? Because they would call him the dark man or the black man because he was supposed to be sooty, tending the fires of hell and all. Hast thou enticed me into a bond that will prove the ruin of my soul? Not thy soul, he answered with a smile, not thine. So she says, look, I've told you I would keep your secret, but is this gonna like affect my soul? And he says, oh no, not your soul. Whose soul is he now after? Yeah, the daddy. Okay, so he's gonna do everything he can to find out who that father is. All right, so chapter 5, it talks about how Hester makes her living, but I do want to point something out to y'all, okay? And I think it's also kind of towards the end. So look for the 3rd page to the end of the chapter, and it's gonna be, let's see, 1, 2, wow, there's a really long paragraph in there, but it's the paragraph that starts, but sometimes once in many days. And tell me when you find it.
What does it start with?
But sometimes once in many days. Logan, you got it? Okay. All right, so here, anybody else?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good. All right, so a little backstory. Hester, when she goes to town with her child, I mean, she's often like the subject of these impromptu sermons. You know, people will see her and they will stop their children and they'll talk about her and her sin.
Teachers, pardon this interruption. Jackets, I need everyone's attention. I've got several very important announcements. First of all, our football game with Benton this Friday night at Benton has been canceled. Benton has had some football players that have tested positive.
Really, Miss?
And therefore they are quarantining and will not be able to play us Friday night. We are looking for another opponent for Friday night, a home game for Friday night, and hopefully we'll know something today, and we will let you know about that. With that said, that kind of brings up to us that we do not need to let our guard down. 99% of the time here at school, we see you all doing the right thing. Wearing your mask, but occasionally someone doesn't have it on, has it pulled down below your nose. Once you've done that, that mask is totally ineffective. At lunch, Jackets, I know obviously you take the mask off to eat your lunch, but it is also not a time to take your mask off and get closer to another student than you normally would. Once you have had your lunch, you need to get the mask back on. We have got to be diligent about these things, or football season may come to a complete end, and other seasons that are upcoming might not get started. So we've just got to be diligent and do all those things. Wash your hands, use hand sanitizer, wear your mask. We've built in that extra time at the end of second period so that you have more time to wash your hands between classes. Let's make sure you do that. Make sure you do it at lunch, and take care of all of those things so that we can continue doing what we're doing. Last thing deals with fees. I've said this before, and I'm going to go over it again. We have reduced fees across the board in every class. Many classes we did away with fees. In their place, we came up with the technology fee, which combined is much lower than what you would have paid last year. But this Thursday, at the end of the school day, all fees are due. If you've not paid a teacher's fee, a participation fee, the technology fee, by the end of the day Thursday, then you become ineligible for sports or any other participation, that's practice or play. You are no longer eligible, even if you've bought a parking decal, to park on the Bird campus.
Wow.
These fees can be paid online, a credit card can be used, but they all must be paid by the end of the day Thursday. Then teachers will turn in anyone that has not paid on Friday. We'll create the debt list and we'll post the debt list and we'll go from there. So again, Jackets, Benton game is canceled. Hopefully we'll let you know something by the end of the day. Number 2, let's be diligent. Make sure we're taking care of ourselves in the halls, going to and from class, at lunch, those types of things. And then again, let's get fees paid and take care of things there. Thank you.
Okay, so y'all can put your stuff up, but I do want to point this out because it may show up on your quiz tomorrow. I'm not going to tell you what to highlight because it'd take too long, but there are times she's in town where her letter gives off like what's called a sympathetic throb. And y'all, what that means is that she has this feeling or sense of when someone else has also sinned, maybe as gravely as she has. But where does she where does she wear her sin? I mean, it's like literally on, the outside of her clothing. So it just highlights that these folks are self-righteous and judgmental, but they're also often hypocritical because she'll pass someone, and sometimes it's like a dignitary, someone with a lot of authority, and she'll feel this pang on her chest that letter gives off, and she knows that person is also a sinner. But the difference is they're keeping their sin inside. She's wearing hers on the outside, making them the hypocrite. Right? Okay, see y'all tomorrow. Have a good one.